Google Forms for assessment. Before I begin, I want to state a few things first about using Google Forms and how you can incorporate them for assessments. First and foremost, these type of assessments are only going to be good for like down and dirty, quick, easy assessments. True, false, multiple choice, nothing really in depth, not your long answer questions or anything where you're allowing kind of a more open-ended option for students. But it's a real great tool if you want to get a quick feel of where your students are at the end or in the middle of a unit. You just want to do a progress check with the students. Quick, easy, true, false, or multiple choice test. Another limitation of using Google Forms is you cannot import pictures into your questions. If you're looking to create a more in-depth assessment or use pictures, I would recommend them probably going to Moodle and using Moodle for this type of assessment. So to create a form for assessment in Google, go to Google Docs, found underneath the Documents menu, and underneath the left-hand side is a Create option. When you click on Create, you do have the option to create a form. So we're going to create a form, and up comes the template, the default template for using to create a form in Google. At the top are some options you have. You can allow users to edit the responses, require a sign-in from St. Croix Falls, or automatically collect respondents' usernames. What I've found to be most effective when creating these type of assessments is to leave all three of these unchecked. First thing we need to do is title a form. So let's type this one quick and easy, sample quiz. In the box below the title, you can allow it to use room for directions or even text for your questions. So if you're given a reading passage, you can place the reading passage here in this box and use then the questions below to relate back to the text. By default, Google gives you two questions. There are different types of questions. There are text questions, paragraph text, which is a longer text option box, multiple choice, checkbox, choose from a list, scale, or grid. For these simple down and dirty assessments, your best option for the questions themselves will be multiple choice. However, the first couple pieces of information you need from the assessment is, for example, the student's name. So I need to know who's taking the quiz. First name. One of the options you have in the screen here you see is make this required question. You're going to want to check this for all your questions. This will ensure that every student makes sure they fill out all the fields in your assessment. When I'm done, I click Done, and it finishes up. A sample question 2, if I want to edit a question, I can click on the Edit button and change this one. I have first name, I need last name. I'm going to leave this text because I don't need a very big field, just a little field for this information. Again, making it required, click Done. Now I have no more questions or anything left. What I need to do is go to the left-hand corner and add an item. And I want to add one more text box. In this text box, I want to ask for the student's email address. And the reason why I want to ask for the email address is the script that we're going to use, it's called Flubaroo, actually allows us to email the results to the students. So I'm going to make a text box called email address. And inside the help text, this is the little it's kind of like directions to a question. I want to make sure to let the kids know I need the full information. So I need to include the information after the @ sign. Make it required, done. The next piece is start adding the questions. So best bet, the most effective way to create assessments for the least number of errors is to use multiple choice. The reason being, if you use a text box, students can enter a question and they may give you an answer that's correct, but by the way they answer the question, the Flubaroo script actually marks it as wrong. For example, if I have the math question 2 plus 2, and I enter the number 4 into the answer key, and a student types out F-O-U-R in their response, it's going to be marked wrong because it's not matching the number 4. So for that reason, multiple choice eliminates those options. So multiple choice, question type 2 plus 2 equals, and then I can put options. Make it required, none. Now I would continue the same options going through all the questions I want to include on the quiz. When I'm done, I can click on Save. Once it has saved, you can go and back to your Google Docs, and you will see at the top your quiz is automatically found inside your home folder. Open that up again, but it doesn't open the form. It actually opens up a spreadsheet. If you look at the top, we have the questions up at the top, and what will happen is as people take this assessment, they'll fill in below with that information. To see the assessment, you actually need to go to the live form. So underneath the form, go to live form. We now can see the sample quiz I started creating. And when I fill it out and hit submit, it tells me that it's been recorded. I'll close that form, and we can now see the submission inside that field. So I'm going to go back to the live form again. The one thing that's going to be hard is how do you get this assessment to the students? And it's not really hard. It's just you have to have an understanding of how you need to, convey this information to students. This URL to the form, or basically what you're going to do is you're going to share this URL, the web page of this quiz, with the students. You don't share the document behind it, but just the web page that's created when you built the form. If you look at the top, this URL is very big. So what I can do is I can select the URL, copy it, and if I go to my website, you can create a link to that one. Link to the quiz. So I'll create at the page, find a spot on your website where you want to link it to, type the text for the quiz that you want to link from, highlight, select link, and because it's a web address, not an existing page, you click web address and now paste that URL you just copied. You can select the option to open a link in a new window, click OK. When I click Save, I now have a way for students to get to that sample quiz. Other things that are kind of good to note about this form is you can also turn off the responses. So let's say you only want to allow students to submit the quiz during a certain period of time. You can turn it on and off under this option here called Accepting Responses. I have built a sample quiz with a bunch of different questions in it and took it hypothetically a number of times so you can see what it would start filling in as students take the quiz. Now that the quiz has been done and I want to start working with it, I need to install the power, the work behind it that's going to do the grading for me, that's going to allow me to email the results to the students. And what that is called is a script called Flubaroo. A script is just a short set of directions or a small program that tells how to manipulate or how to handle certain items found in your spreadsheet. So how to add a script to your spreadsheet is underneath Tools, and we're going to go to Script Gallery. The Script Gallery is people are allowed to submit these scripts to Google and they share them freely. And the script that we're going to look for and use is called Flubaroo. I'm going to click Search, and it comes on up. When I want to use it, I need to install. The thing to note is it's not actually installing a program on my computer. It's not installing something with your Google Docs. It's actually installing something into that document. Once it's installed, you'll see that it turns green and says installed. You can close. At the top, what happens is a new menu item is created called Flubaroo. Underneath the new menu item is the option to grade the assignment. Before I can actually grade the assignment, though, I need to allow the script to have permission to run. What it's asking here is whether or not I'm going to allow the script to make modifications to the spreadsheet and send emails on my behalf. Because we know where it's going to come from, we allow it to go OK. Now when I click on Flubaroo the second time and I click Grade Assignment, I'm going to start to be asked questions on how I want to grade that assignment. What Flubaroo does is it looks at the questions you have and tries to determine whether or not they're questions that identify the student, whether they're questions you're going to grade, or if you want, you can actually select a question to skip. This may be useful if you're doing an open-ended question. They still want to gather the information, but you're not going to grade it. Once you had set up how you're going to grade it and what questions are identifying students, click Continue. And it's going to look and ask you which one you want to use as the answer key. One of the steps you want to do before you start using Flubaroo is actually take your assessment yourself. By taking it yourself, you're going to enter the correct answers and give yourself that answer key. So I'll select the one that I've done and put in the correct answers. Click continue. And now it does the work. And then what happens on the back side, it actually builds a new page to your spreadsheet. The first page is still your answers, but if we look and we go to the second page, we now have the summary of the grades of how the students did. We have a summary of overall of what the assessment provided, number of points, the average grade, and we can also look at the individual students. How did each student do? And how each question as a class was handled, or how well the students did on each question as a class. Like Microsoft Excel, you're still allowed to sort this information, and this may be useful, especially if you're trying to enter these grades into a grade book. It will allow you to sort by last name so you can go and put them quickly in your grade book. Now that I have all the grades graded, I want to share these results with students. What I'm able to do is I'm able to email the grades. When I created the form, I included that field email address. The reason why I included the field email address was so I could select it here and allow Flubaroo to work on my behalf. So I put in the email address. I can also include answers in the email. Once I'm ready to email it, click continue, and it automatically will start sending out the emails. To get an idea of what the students would receive, here's an example. Students would see which questions they got wrong, marked as red, which questions they got right, marked as green, but also the answer key so they can reflect back and see how they did in regards to the quiz. The last piece of information I want to share with you, Flubaroo, it also gives you an opportunity to get a report. Click on View Report, and you're able to see an average how your class did in a given assessment. Like, we had a number of students that got 2s or 4s, and whether it created the bell curve or a very steep slope if every student did very well. You can also email this report to yourself. So again, Flubaroo and using Google Forms for assessment is a good, quick, easy way to make down and dirty assessments, true, false, multiple choice. It's not great for an in-depth assessment piece, but it allows for maybe to say a along the road, quick, formative assessment, see how students are understanding the topics you're sharing with them. Hopefully this was useful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me an email or a call. Thanks.